just from a standpoint of, you know, how well the guys battled back in that second half, and just, man, it was obviously physically exhausting for the kids. It was mentally exhausting for the kids. It was just, man, it was what college football is all about. That game was what college football is all about. And it was an awful lot of fun. But to be that close, for something that big, because that was, 24th ranked team in the country comes in your place, and it's your last time to play at home. And and some things to get to play the spoiler and to be that close to spoil it. And then come up short. It was heartbreaking for those kids. It was, I had to sit outside for a minute before I came in the locker room to figure out what I wanted to tell them, because you don't have the words in those type situations that's going to make them feel any better. But after watching it Sunday, there's a lot of things that we can learn from. A lot of penalties and mistakes and some dumb things like that. But from an effort standpoint, golly, man, those guys, they fought their brains out, and but it was very gut wrenching. I tell you, my thoughts on the game overall was it was a tale of two halves. I thought defensively, I thought we played good enough to win, especially in that first half. I really did. I thought we played tremendous in the first half. The only thing I told them at the break at halftime was. Hey, man, you ought to have kind of a little burr in your fanny, because they've gone for it on every fourth down. They've literally had no problems. It wasn't even a thought process on fourth down. They're just going for it. And if that doesn't light your fire, then something's wrong with you. But offensively, for lack of better terms, there was a come to Jesus with the offensive guys, because that was probably the worst first half of football I've ever seen in my life. Especially that I've ever been associated with my name on it in my life. It was the most mentally dead, physically unemotional, worthless 30 minutes of football I've ever been associated with. We did not play very well. We didn't do anything very well. We weren't thinking. There was just little things that came up during the game that we didn't do very well. So. At halftime, it had nothing to do with adjustments or anything like that. It was just, hey, man, you guys got to start playing. You got to get some juice about you. And that's what we did in the second half. Now, that was what I was very proud about, was when we got back on the field, seeing the way that they responded. It was very encouraging, especially when you take into the fact, all of a sudden Tony Mays, he gets, two unsportsmanlike conducts, and he's out. And you throw Ben Looper. You got Ben Looper at tackle, who's played like 2 snaps before that game, and you got Quan Stallworth, a true freshman, and they're going against one of the best fronts that we've played, the best front we've played to up to this point. I thought it was a tremendous job, just kind of a gut check for those guys, and they responded very well. And then on the flip side, though, the problem was I think the defense had ran like 76 plays in the first half, so they were beat to death. They were beat to death, I think they ran 123 plays the whole game, and by the time we got to the second half, they were just done. And in that second overtime, Boone looked at me and said, hey, man, if you score, go for 2. He said, we're done. We have nothing left in the tank. You either win it or lose it right now. And obviously we didn't get to that point. It's one of those situations where we had kind of shot all our bullets, and I'd ran, I'd run the sister to that play. I'd ran before, and we underthrew it, and it was wide open. The throwback to the quarterback was wide open. As a matter of fact, it kind of freaked the O-lineman out, because there was nobody to block. They were pulling downfield, and they were like, hey, Coach, there was nobody there. And I said, yeah, tell me about it. But when we ran that play, all I was looking for was that pass off of it, and it was there. And but if the guy who intercepted it, if he doesn't intercept it, there's 2 more that's going to intercept it behind him. After watching it on film, it was just a bad play call, because I didn't give the guys a chance, at the end. But at the same time, we'd kind of thrown everything we had. We'd thrown the kitchen sink at them at that point. It was, hey, let's try to hit them on this, and if we don't, then we'll try to play a little bit of ball with them. I don't know. I think, our theme, we always do themes, and our theme this week is just juice. We got to come with the juice. We got to play like we did in the second half for 4 quarters. especially this week. But to me, I told the team this. I said, look here. I said, most people in our situations, they get to that last game, they take their toys, they go home, they pack it in, they're done. I said, that ain't our style. That ain't what we're going to do. And I told them that our word of the week was going to be juice, because that's what we're going to have all week. We're going to have the best practices we've ever had. We're going to go down there in all intentions of spoiling their number one seed into the playoffs. And we're going to take all of the able bodies that we have. It may not fill up one bus, but we're going to take all the guys that we have that are still able to play. And we're going to go down there and give them our best shot. But the challenge is going to be, what we have to do is we have to play a full 4 quarters like we did the second 2 quarters of last week, especially this week, because, man, what a great opportunity we have. The last game of the season, and just coincidentally, it winds up being versus the number 1 team, not in your conference, but in the land. That makes for an awful lot of fun. Yeah, there's more than you can even run down. Eli Jenkins, man, tremendous athlete, tremendous arm talent, makes very good decisions, runs that offense well. Just super efficient. Offensively, they put you in a bind because they can bring in power sets, and 12 personnels and 21 personnels and things like that, and they can run it down your face, but then they'll take that same personnel and spread you out with those same guys. Or then they can go into a 4 wide, 10 personnel set, and they've got tall, long receivers that can run and go get it. They play with an awful lot of confidence. Their offensive line, are big dudes. They're not necessarily the best-looking guys that I've seen on tape, but they're big. They're big, and they play. They're just nasty. They can move bodies and things like that. And then defensively, I thought last week was the best defensive front that I've faced up to this point, and it was up to this point, because these cats that we're watching on tape right now, they're in their own different stratosphere. They're big in the middle. They have these 2 DNs that they'll line up and they'll stand up and they play them real wide, and those dudes just come off the rock. And what they do is when you're in situations to throw the ball, those DNs, they're going to push the pocket back. Your quarterback's going to have to step up, and then they've got these 2 big pluggers in the inside that don't allow your quarterback to do anything and go anywhere. They're awfully talented on the back end. But anytime you've got a front like they do, a front 7 like they do, I could be playing in the back end, and I'm going to make a play because your quarterback's going to be running for his life the whole time. So, man, they've got so many challenges. That's the reason why they're the number 1 team in the land, is because everywhere you look, there's a challenge. There's a challenge. Their secondary is a challenge. Their linebackers, there's a challenge. Their defensive front, there's a challenge. In the special teams, there's challenge. They got these kick returners that can just explode the game wide open. And, but on the flip side of that, that's what makes it so fun, because if you go down there and, I think our biggest thing is we've got to be close come the 4th quarter. Because, I told the team, I said, hey, man, I think what you've done is you kind of created an image this past couple of weeks of being a team that won't really go away. And, and if we hang around long enough, eventually my kids, they get to saying, hey, maybe this thing will happen. Maybe this thing will happen. And, so I'm hoping that's kind of the game plan is going to that 4th quarter and be close. And then all bets are off, man. You're in the last week of the season versus the number 1 team in the country, and it's like the playoffs. You just don't ever know what's going to happen.